Welcome to Beyond Belief, the art of strange magic and mentalism. With your host, Tommy Burnett. This week's special guest is Mark Strivings. And now, your host, Tommy Burnett.
What did I tell you about that laughing? You gotta stop laughing. It makes me look like I'm crazy or something. Didn't know you were here. Hi, it's Tommy Burnett, and welcome back to Beyond Belief, the art of strange magic and mentalism. And today, not unlike any other day, we have a wonderful show lined up for you today with an extraordinary guest, someone who's been in magic and mentalism and music for decades and have put his name out there in so many tracks and services that if you haven't heard his name, I don't know what to do. Sorry. Please help me welcome Mr. Mark Strivings.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Mark.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Yes, tracks and services. All of them. So how are you today, Mark?
I'm doing great. I'm very fond of saying, I'm doing great. I can't complain, and it wouldn't matter if I did. So,
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Who do I have? I had Sean Farquhar on, I think, last week, and I asked him the same thing. And he said, Tommy, if I was any better, I'd be twins.
That sounds like Sean.
Yeah. So, I mean, we don't talk that much, but I gotta say, I love everything about you, Mark. Your early work, especially early for me anyway, has really helped me out and shaped me as a performer in a very good way, especially early on when I used to do more walk around, which I hated doing because I hated the approach. And your Strolling Mentalism video, which I recently found out earlier today, there were more than one video, but that video in particular really helped me out with really strong routines that are perfect to do walking around with. And before we start, I just wanted to publicly say thank you for that, because it really changed my life. It really did.
I am so unbelievably honored and flattered, my friend. That makes it all worthwhile. It generally does. I'll tell you what. I'll give you. A lot of guys are not familiar with where all of that came from and so forth. So if it's okay with you, I'll just immediately.
Please do, yeah.
When back in the late '80s, I had always just kind of dabbled in magic and mentalism. One thing that I did, which I have been incredibly glad I did, is pretty much as early as I could possibly do it. When I was even a teenager, I made it a habit of picking up books. And I've got more. This is very small part, very small part. But I acquired books, and I always listened to those who were more knowledgeable than me, which is practically everybody. And I just made it a point. If they said this book is really good, great. That's all I need to hear. Boom. And I got it. And so that's one thing that I did, pretty much from the word go. So by the time I got to a point where I was starting to think, maybe this performing thing would be the way I want to go. I already had a lot of references. I had a lot of stuff that I could draw from. And so one day, and this is literal, I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down, and I took one of those big yellow legal pads, and I just kind of made notes. It's almost like a stream of consciousness thing. And I decided what I'm going to do is I just want to write down everything that at least at the time, everything that I want to do in terms, and it was all kinds of stuff. It was venues, it was types of performances, it was where I wanted to go physically, travel, and so forth, in terms of the magic and mentalism taking me there, that kind of stuff. And one of the things at the time, this is, like I say, this is back in the late 80s. And for those of you who were around at the time, there was a very hefty influx for the first time ever of all kinds of references, handbooks and things, specifically aimed at walk around, restaurant, table hopping, things like that. There were multiple books that were written. And so there was suddenly a huge influx of information on this very specialized type of entertainment. And I grabbed all of those things. And I wanted to work restaurants. That's specifically what I was thinking at the time. So one of the things I put on my list was table hopping or walk around magic, of course. But I also put table hopping, walk around mentalism. And it just went on the list. And as I began to move forward towards actually becoming a full-time performer, I just kind of went down the list on things that seemed to be most accessible and or workable at the time and so forth. And it took a little while for me to get to the walk around mentalism part. Right. And I did what I've always done. And I went to all of this stuff and all of my other references. I went to all of the toys that we all get and tried to cobble together some kind of a walk around mentalism repertoire. And I discovered real quick, it was tough. It was difficult. Outside of things like billet work or possibly doing like mental type effects with playing cards, things like that, it was pretty slim pickings. It really was. Yeah. And so I went to work and I started cobbling together. Basically what I started with was, for the most part, classic plots in mentalism, and trying to figure out ways to be able to do those things in the environment that walk around calls for, which is pretty demanding. And I early on, one decision I made that I have never regretted was I decided in any close-up material that I was going to do, and it didn't matter what kind it was, magic, mentalism, whatever, if it was going to be close-up, I wasn't even going to deal with it at all unless I could do it strolling. Because if you can do a piece strolling, you can do it in any close-up conditions. Right. Strolling work is the most demanding close-up work that you can do. And so I figured if it works there, it'll work anywhere. And I've never regretted that particular approach. And so that means as I was reading through things like this and I was going through stuff, if it couldn't be done strolling, it got shelved immediately. I just wasn't at that time not interested. I only want to focus on things I can use. Yeah. And I've never regretted that decision. I was really glad I did it that way. And with the mentalism stuff, I just started, like I say, taking classic plots and trying to tweak them in some way so that I could do them strolling. And in varying degrees of success, managed to start putting that together. And I started doing actual strolling walk around mentalism. But I didn't know anybody else who did it, anybody at all, anywhere. I mean, there were magicians doing strolling who were doing like the invisible deck or something like that. And yes, of course, that is a mentalism type of effect if you present it that way. Yeah. But that in my book anyway, that doesn't count as being a strolling mentalist. That's a different thing. And so I began to cobble that together. And as I began to get more and more involved in the community, the greater community. I became a member of the PEA, got to know a lot of guys there and so forth. And I discovered in real short order that, and I've yet to have anybody who has come forward and said, no, I was there too. Back, we're talking the early 90s here, 91 or so, I discovered that, according to my own findings, there were a grand total of 2 of us in the world who promoted and actually sold our services as strolling or walk around mentalists. There were 2 of us. There was me, and there was my friend, the late great Terry Nosek in Las Vegas. And Terry had been doing it for years, and we became fast friends. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But bless his heart, he became such a great colleague and a confidant. And so that's where it started. And then in 1996, I decided, I thought, nobody's doing this stuff, and that seems like a shame. And so I encroached on a number of my friends, and I said, do you have anything in your repertoire that you might consider? I'm going to put together a book about doing this stuff. And is there anything that you've got that you do that might be appropriate? And bless their hearts, a whole bunch of guys whose names you would largely recognize stepped up and said, yeah, here's something right here. And bless their hearts. And I wound up putting together a volume called Mobile Mentalism, and which is still available to this day. It's, my God, 30 years, and it's still in print. It's still available. And that launched literally the entire walk around mentalism movement. That's where it started. And ever since that day, I mean, I still hear, you and I were talking earlier, Tommy, about that exact book. To this day, I still hear stories all the time about how that book got me going. And so I'm always just deeply honored when anybody does something that I, put out. But particularly with that one, because it literally launched an entire worldwide movement that continues to grow every day. So, which is great. It needed to happen, and it would have happened eventually anyway, I think, but still.
Yeah, but again, I'm telling you, so.
Yep.
And isn't there a second one too?
There's a second volume in 2002, and I will just tell you this much now: Volume 3 is in the works. Volume 3 is in the. It will be the last volume, but Volume 3 is in the works. And in point of fact, I'll just put this out there: if anybody's got an approach in doing strolling walk around mentalism that you might like to have considered for inclusion into Volume 3, get in touch with me. I would love to. There you go. I would love to see what you've got. And I love including other perspectives other than just my own, because obviously I only see the world through my own eyes, and it's good to have other perspectives and other approaches. And when that, I have no projected timeline on that yet, but it is in the works, and we'll see. But yeah, eventually it will come out. I would guess, if I had to guess, sometime in the next year and a half, if I had to guess. So it's out there, it's coming. And hopefully I keep walking down the hall long enough to be able to do it. So it's
I know the feeling.
I'm getting up there, friend. I'm getting up there.
Yeah.
So you never know. But so that's where it's coming from. And you mentioned too, since you brought it up, I'm going to go ahead and jump on something. You didn't like the approach. Nobody likes the approach. Nobody likes the approach. I don't like the approach. As I've been doing it now for 35, 36 years, I don't like the approach to this day. I still don't like it. But I will tell you this. I actually saw something pretty recently that kind of encapsulated what I've thought all along. I just hadn't thought of it in these terms. And that was, unlike there's a common thought process in strolling magic, that you got to grab their attention real quick. You got to do something flashy. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. I personally, I think that's a mistake. I think you need to lead with you. You need to lead with you as a person and them as people. And as such, do what you would do anytime that you're in just a social situation around people that you don't know. you introduce yourself, and you
Right.
just say, "Hi, my name is Mark," and shake hands, meet a couple of people, and even if you walk into a group stone cold, unless they are deeply involved in some kind of conversation, which you can usually tell before you walk up to them, if it's
Yeah.
just light casual conversation, you're good. You can walk right in, literally walk up, introduce yourself. My name is Mark. Just start a conversation. And in the course of that, inside of 15, 20 seconds, the reason I'm here is I'm part of the entertainment tonight, and I do some fun stuff. You want to see something cool, you're in. And it's just that simple. But it's
Yeah.
because you start
Yeah.
with you and them, and you're not starting with something else. And that's what I've always tried to do. It's what I advocated in mobile mentalism, without literally saying as much.
Mhm.
Start a conversation and start there, and that's really, it's still never 100% comfortable, but it sure is a whole lot easier than trying to walk up and go, I
Right.
have
Yeah.
always thought that was, for a mentalist especially, that's a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. No, I figured that out later on, but
Hmm.
uh, yeah, just be yourself,
Yeah,
and
just be yourself and just
uh,
be a person, be a
yeah.
human being. That's, I think that's the most important part, because I want them I want them to like me. If they like you, they're going to like what you do.
Right.
Assuming you do it well, they
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
qualification. But if they like you as a person, the odds of them liking what you do skyrocket. So,
Yeah.
you know, just be you, be nice, be cool, be kind, be all that good stuff, and you're 90% of the battle is done at that point. It really is.
Yeah.
It is.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
True. So one of my favorite, I mean, there's so many favorite things that you put out over the years. One of them I can't remember the name, probably because I'm getting old. But it's a variation of a film deck, and I think it's called something like uh, a rose by any other name. Something, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
What you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
For those of you who aren't familiar, there's a trick that goes back many decades, and it actually started with a trick that was different than where the trick has gone since then. But basically, it involved a name appearing written on the back of a selected playing card, and nobody knew that name was there to begin with. And it's one of those tricks that there have been all kinds of approaches to it. There have been, and I've included it in my repertoire. Oh man, since or well over 30 years in various forms. And a while back, I hit on an idea that in my head it worked perfectly. I couldn't decide if it worked for real or not, and I'm not kidding. I literally um, I thought about this trick. I took notes about this trick. I ruminated on this trick for easily a year, all the time. I don't have one right here with me, but I use these small legal pads, right? Just to
Hmm.
keep notes on and things like that. And
Hmm.
it's this size paper right here, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
And I used one of those, and I had one of those with like pages of notes about this particular trick. And again, for those of you who are not familiar with the trick, the way it's usually presented is, I want you to think of a playing card, and I'll bet you I can name your playing card. And of
Hmm.
course, they say whatever trick, what. Before you say, you're thinking about the card. Yes, concentrate on it. I'm going to name your card. Your card's name is Phil, which of course is a big joke, and everybody, ha ha ha, and it is a good joke. This is a very commercial premise.
Yeah.
Then you actually produce a deck of playing cards, and you thumb through and you find their selected playing card. And then you proceed to show other cards have names on the back of them. Apparently, the whole deck has names on the back, and you show that the card that they named is the only one with the word Phil on the back. That's basically the trick. The fill deck, of course, being from Max Maven, Phil Goldstein. And as is true of so many things that Max did, the premise themselves actually predated Max by decades, but Max is the one who made it famous.
Right.
And so, I call my version of the trick, I call Frederick the Great. Because
great. Yeah.
Frederick the Great, and because the guy who first came up with the premise that we now use was Fred Lowe. And so this is in homage to him. So Frederick the Great, I wanted to honor him because he's the genius who saw the real potential in the trick. What gets folks about my version, this is one of those tricks. I don't. Okay, I'm going to give you all kinds of stuff here. It's going to seem like a shotgun and not a rifle. Yeah, Duck. Anybody, if you're familiar with the name George Sands, you familiar with this name? George Sands. George is no longer with us, unfortunately, but George was a very dear friend. I knew George for many, many years, and he was a contemporary of Di Vernon and Charlie Miller and Slidini and all those guys. All of those guys spoke in nothing but glowing tones about George Sands. George was an absolute genius. I don't think he's really gotten his due, which is unfortunate. If you do rope magic at all, you're doing this to George Sands, because he didn't invent the rope magic, but boy, did he invent how we do it now. That's all him. And one time he and I were talking, and he says to me, he says, Mark, you want to know what the secret is to performing for magicians? Just out of the clear blue sky, he says this. You want to know what the secret is to performing for magicians? I said, yeah, George, what's the secret for performing for magicians? And George says to me, he says, magicians are just like everybody else. They just want to be entertained. They just want to have fun. And we, as fellow performers, we tend to think, oh, I got to fool these guys. Right. That's what I do. And we get real shook up. Oh, they're going to know what I'm doing. Life is too short. Okay. Right. If you're dealing with other people in the room who are supposed to know, at least sometimes, what you're doing. Okay. Don't get caught up in that. Focus on having fun, focus on being entertaining, all that kind of stuff. Now, having said that, and getting back to the fill trick, the Fred trick, I have been very blessed in that I do have some material in my repertoire that just fools the living crap out of magicians. And Frederick the Great is one of them. It fools everybody. And I'll just describe it for you. I don't have it right here. I would do it for you. I will describe it for you though. Basically, the way I present it, I have done it with the, I'm going to name your card and then I say the name. Okay. But I don't do it that way. The way that I do it is I walk out. I frequently use this as an opener. I'll walk out and I'll say, my name is Mark. And I want to just tell you, I'm really good at this. I'm really good at this. In fact, here, you, ma'am, have we ever met before? No. Okay. I said, just look me in the eye. And I look at her and I go, Yolanda. And she goes, okay. I go, don't say anything. Then I say, you, sir, just look me in the eye. George. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. Hang on. Now, Yolanda, George, here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of a playing card. Really easy. Think of a playing card. But it's possible that the two of you could think of the same card. I don't want that to happen. So, Yolanda, I want you to think of a red playing card, either a heart or a diamond. George, I want you to think of either a black playing card, either a club or a spade. So they both think of one. And I say, okay, have you got one? Have you got one? Yes. And then I say to Yolanda, I say, okay, for the first time, what is the card that you selected? And I have got a deck of cards in my hand the whole time. And let's say she says 5 of diamonds. So I spread through and I take 5 of diamonds and I show it and I place it into a wine glass. And then I go to George and I say, you got a card. It's a club or a spade. Which one is it? Queen of spades. Queen of spades. I go through, I find Queen of spades. It goes into another wine glass. And then I explain, I told you I'm really good at this. Here's what I didn't tell you. On the back of these cards, and now I turn the deck around, there's a name on the back of every one of these cards. And I start going through the deck, one card at a time. I don't just spread through. And I say every single name. And I go right on through and I talk about, and I've got some built-in bits and jokes and things built in.
Mm-hmm.
But then I get to a point with magicians where they begin to realize, oh crap, he's about to show us every single card in the deck. Yes, I am. I'm going to show you every single card in the deck, and they are all different. Go all the way through. And I say, but I told you I'm really good at this. You selected the 5 of diamonds or whatever it was. You selected the queen of spades or whatever it was. I said Yolanda, I said George, and I turned these 2 cards around. It's Yolanda, it's George. Climax number 1, there's more. I set these aside. I say, now, each one of you, I said, now I just went through the whole deck here. And that was a lot of names. But you, ma'am, I want to see if opposites attract. I want you to think of one of the guys' names that you heard in this deck. I want you to think of one of the women's names that you heard in this deck. Meanwhile, I pick up a second deck, which I show, and I take 2 cards, which I set back out into 2 wine glasses. Then, for the first time, I say, what's the man's name that you're thinking of? She says it. I find that name. And I've also built into the deck where I have multiple options. Like, for instance, I may have, she says, Michael. And I said, well, there's also Mike. There's a Mike in here, too. Do you want to change your mind? Do you want to go to Mike instead of Michael? I let her change. It's true for every card in the deck. There are options. So she says, no, I'm staying with Michael. Great. So I take Michael. I set it into the glass. Sir, did you think of a woman's name? Yeah, Susie. Susie. There's also a Sue and a Susan. Do you want to change your mind? And I show that they are different cards. He gets whatever he gets. And now I take those 2 pairs of cards, reveal them at the same time, and they are matching. So in other words, Michael here, let's say it turns out to be a 7 of spades. This is also a 7 of spades, what I picked ahead of time. Same thing over here. So it's a double hit, and it fries me.
Great trick.
It's a kill.
Great trick. Yeah.
I'm very proud of it.
Yeah. No, you should be. I think I picked that up at your lecture at Kenneth.
Did I do it there? I think I did it there.
So. I believe you did, yeah.
Did it there.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember going home for a lot of stuff.
Bless your heart.
I mean, I'm very particular about the stuff that I think that I could get away with performing. And because there are some things, including bizarre magic, that I don't think I can pull off. There are some things, there are many that I can, but there's some that, I'll leave that for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And again, first of all, I lost the manuscript. I still have the decks that I made up.
I'll take care of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was one other one that I've forgotten the name. I have the manuscript somewhere, and I also have everything put together. But it was one with 2 decks of cards and a bag filled with folded up cards.
Yeah. Yep.
Beautiful effect. I have used that for so many years.
It's a great trick. For those who don't know what Tommy's talking about, this is one plot that I love, and I love this plot so much, is the needle in the haystack. Mm-hmm. Any card trick is really, when you get right down to it, except it's a very, contained haystack. It's 1 in 52. But the needle in the haystack premise is great. And there have been some wonderful ones. One of my favorites is Andy Nyman published, in effect, with a whole big container of matchsticks. And they mark one of them, and it gets dropped back in and gets shaken all up. And you reach back inside, and you manage to pull out that one marked matchstick. It's a very strong trick. This is a similar idea. And it was actually brought about by another, needle in the haystack trick that is just gorgeous. It was, in fact, I was trying to find a different way of doing this other trick, and I wound up creating a whole different trick along the way. But basically what this is there's a complete red deck and a complete blue deck in a big baggie. Everything's fully examinable. It is exactly what it appears to be. And they're all folded into quarters. All of these cards are folded into quarters. And then you produce a red deck and a blue deck. And you say, which one do you want to use? Whichever one you say, that's what we'll use. You want to use the red deck? Great. And then I show the deck. I have them pick a card. They pick a card. And for the first time, I say, I want you to concentrate on that card. And I dive into the bag and I rummage around, finally pulling out a card. And I say, now, for the first time, what color is the back of the card that you chose? It was from a red deck. And I show, I got a red deck. I got a red card too. What are the odds? Well, 50-50, of course. But then for the first time, they name their card. When you open this up, it's the same card. It's super easy. It is so easy to do. It's almost criminal. But it's really fun. I love that trick. That has been a hoot. That has really been fun. I'm glad you like it. I'm really glad.
I literally have run that for years. I can't even tell you. As soon as I bought it and I've made
There's a little bit of work getting it ready. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been using it. I have it somewhere over here.
Oh.
But it's definitely in my current repertoire. I think I've done it on our open mic on Wednesdays.
No.
But yeah. I mean, it works over Zoom just as well. I mean, it would be better. It would be better if they could handle the cards, but it can, it still works. So before I forget, you're also an accomplished musician.
What was that?
You are an accomplished
magician, yes.
Musician. Yeah. Well, they're kind of the same.
Trust me.
Yeah. If you ask Kenton Nipper, he says they're the same, and I agree. But I only found out recently that you play sax, and even more recently, today, I found out that before you played sax, you played something else.
I was a clarinetist, yeah. For many years. Yeah. It's amazing how many performers that are also accomplished musicians. There's a huge crossover there. It happens more than you would think. I can't tell you how many conventions I've attended where somebody has said, next year we should all bring our instruments. So we'll have a jam session. And I went, no, no, but that's happened many times. But yeah, I was, as I was telling you before we went on, I played my first professional gig, my first professional music performance in 1976. So it's been 50 years there, and I still perform all the time. We're recording this on a Saturday. This upcoming week, I've got 3 nights worth of gigs coming up this following week. Things are busy right now, and lots and lots of shows and things. And that's just music stuff. So yeah, it keeps me jumping. I play all the time, and it's a good time. Good time.
Oh. Ben Blau is watching online.
Oh, Ben! Hey!
Yeah, hi, Ben. He says, glad he tuned in. What's up, guys? And, oh, hell yeah, to the jam session.
If you're in on it, Ben, I might consider it, maybe.
Ben, I'm a big fan of yours too, and if you want to be on the show, I would be honored to have you on the show. I'm a big fan of all your work. It says most love to you most. Yeah. So let's see. What else did I move? Well, I mean, I'm a, I'm a collector of certain things in mentalism. I have a small collection of book tests. I have a small collection of ESP cards, and I have a small collection of wallets. And
Good
the
company there.
one, yeah,
Yeah.
the one wallet that I have more than one of is yours, the SUC case.
Yeah.
Um, and I also have the booklets that you wrote about the FCC,
Mhm.
and if anyone, well, how did that all begin? Because I think it's fascinating how people come up with ideas, especially for wallets. Um,
Um, when I can tell you exactly how it came up. This kind of coincided with me doing more and more in the world of strolling mentalism. They kind of go hand in hand. Back in the early 90s, around 91, 92, Doc Hilford and I, in particular, we were experimenting with business card cases,
mm-hmm,
specifically a business card case literally bought right off the shelf at Office Depot or something like that.
mm-hmm,
But we would take and cut a big honking hole out of the back of it. Okay. It was essentially like a window envelope, but now it's a window business card case.
right,
Big hole right out of the back of it. And it's astonishing the stuff that you can do with a gaff like that, with a gimmick business card case like it. It's incredible what you can do with it. It really is. There's so much you can do with it.
yeah,
But you got this big honking hole in the back of your business card case. And obviously you can't flash it. You got to be cozy with your angles and so forth. In fact, if you go back, I don't know if you can tell right up there, magic right up there. Can you see it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right there. And I couldn't tell you which issue. I would have to go look it up. But in one of the later issues of Magic, in like I say, around early 90s, you can find a piece by Doc Hilford where he details a business card case with a big honking hole cut out of the back of it. And
Mm-hmm,
basically he applies, if you're familiar with the paddle card, but the paddle move
right,
apply
yeah,
to business cards
yeah,
usually.
yeah,
You do that with a business card case that's got a big hole in the back of it. And you've apparently showed both sides. He
mm-hmm,
published that in Magic. And so that is the most tangible evidence of what he and I were doing back in those days. And we were both experimenting like crazy, doing all kinds of stuff. But I just got really tired of having to be, especially in a strolling situation, because you never know where eyes are. And I just got tired of having to keep it close to my body all the time or keep it flat to the floor all the time and that kind of thing. I didn't want to deal with that. And so I started looking at alternatives. And of course, the most immediate alternative, I say, of course, it's the one that is the most frequently mentioned, would be to gaff a business card case in a similar fashion that you would to a Mullica wallet, which is
right,
a slit cut in the back of the wallet.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that you can do practically everything that you can do with the big honking hole, but you still got that slit right there. It's still there. You
right,
still got to cover it. You still got to handle it. It's
yeah,
less an issue, but it's still an issue.
mm-hmm,
And I one day I was puzzling over this and I was trying to think, there's got to be a better way to do this. And for some reason, my brain went, instead of a slit, imagine that this right here between my hands is a slit. Instead of
mm-hmm,
that, what if we did this? And
yeah,
now
like a
the
flat,
slit's still there, but you can't see it. And it can
right,
be part of the design. And that's where
yeah,
it came from. I,
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I had this idea, but I had no way to make it. I had no way to come up with it for sure. So I approached my very dear friend Larry Becker, the late great Larry Becker. And
Mm-hmm.
Larry at the time, who of course put out more leather products than should be legal, all of his stuff at the time was being made by Roy Roth over in
Oh,
England.
okay. Yeah.
And I said to Larry, I said, could I ask a favor? And he said, sure. I said, could you introduce me to Roy? I need something made. And he said, sure. And so he set us up. And I wound up sending a literal business card case right off the shelf from Office Depot, along with a cardboard mock up of what I had in mind. And I sent it off to him. And I said, Roy, can you make that out of this? Can you make it look like this? And he came back and he said, sure. And a few weeks later, this package arrived in the mail, and there was the first sight unseen case. And I jumped with joy when I saw it. I went, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And I immediately put it to work, and I have used it ever since, nonstop ever since. And I'm very pleased that it has become an international standard for what it is. Um,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's everywhere. I always mention this whenever I do a pitch on it, which I am not doing, guys. Okay, trust me, I'm not here to sell anything, believe me. But I always say that it's the list of people who use the case all the time reads like a literal who's who in the world of magic, including two guys who I cannot name, who I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement that they did not want you guys knowing that they use this. I don't know why, but I went, okay. So I can't tell you, but they are names that you absolutely do know. So
Wow.
it's literally, it's everywhere, and it's still out there and still going strong. But that's where it came from. And you can do literally 99% of what you could do with the big honking hole in the back of the
Mm-hmm.
case, and you don't have to cover
Yeah.
anything, which
Yeah.
is nice. But that's where it came from. And it's when I'm gone and nobody cares anymore, which is I'm pretty close to now. That's what I'll be remembered for. I'm convinced of that. Will be that little business card case. That'll be it. And so, yeah,
Well, you'll be remembered for more than that, but that is definite. That,
that's my
yeah.
biggest by far. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about the principle being used in other wallets?
Oh, you ask a fine question, my friend. Okay, first of
Because,
all, it has
yeah,
appeared on a whole bunch of different devices.
it
A whole,
has. Yeah.
and I should also make mention, in complete fairness, Jerry O'Connell, who's a name that you may know,
Mm-hmm.
almost at the exact same time that I brought out the sight unseen case, released his version of that exact same concept. Um, Neither one of us knew each other. We did not know about each other's stuff. They both came out basically at the same time. Um, when I first saw his device, I went, hey, I hear. When he first saw mine, he went, hey. But then I assume, because we never talked about this, but it was clear that they both happened simultaneously. It was
Yeah.
a case of
Yeah.
infinite invention. And and again, I'll be completely transparent about this. I think that, yes, while the functioning part of the both devices is fundamentally the same, it is. The designs that we each applied to that concept is noticeably different.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
like I say, neither one of us ever contacted the other or anything. It was just Jerry did what he did. I'm good with it. I do what I do. I don't know if he was good with it or not, but it
Mm-hmm.
just is what it is.
Yeah.
But now, having said all of that, and to get back to your question, um, this either one, whichever one you want to consider, because the concept is the same.
Mm-hmm.
It is so easy to add onto any kind of hunk of leather that folds.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to do because it's just like, oh, there it is. I mean, it's built in. As a direct result, um, there have been more than a few cases where guys have just simply slapped it on to whatever they were doing. There was a period of time which I think fortunately, thank God, is now over, at least I hope. And that is what I like to call the Swiss Army wallet.
Mm.
In that there was a period of time 15, 20 years ago when I'm convinced there were guys sitting down with a piece of paper with a yellow pad and sitting down and listing everything they could think of to do with a wallet, every gaff that they could put into a wallet. And seemingly there were so many guys who decided, I'm going to make one wallet that does everything.
Mm-hmm.
And here's Mark's opinion on that. Nobody needs a wallet that does everything. Nobody.
Yeah.
Walk away. But there were several guys who tried. And one of the things that they did was including the sight unseen feature.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them did what you're supposed to do, and they contacted me and they said, here's what I'm thinking of doing. We had a discussion and so forth. Others did not. They just did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you this: the first one who did it at all was Peter Nardi
Mm-hmm.
with Alakazam with the Stealth Assassin wallet,
Mm-hmm.
which is fabulous. The
Yeah.
Stealth Assassin is one of the great mentalism and magic wallets ever created. It is genius. Peter, you are a genius. It's
Mm-hmm.
great. And Peter came to me actually. We happened to be at the same convention somewhere, and he said, "I want to show you something." And it was one that he had made for himself. He wasn't telling anybody else about it. He said, "I just want to show you what I did." And he was very upfront about it. And I said, "Yeah." And he showed me, and I looked at it, and I went, "That's very cool. I really, really like that." That was it. And
Mm-hmm.
we each went our separate ways. And like 3 years later, I get this note from Peter out of the clear blue sky saying, "You remember me showing you that wallet?" And I'm going, "Oh God, I can't remember what you showed me." But he sent me photos and he sent me video and all kinds of stuff. Oh yeah, it's coming back. And he was the first one to say, "Would it be okay with you if we did this?" And we came to an agreement on the whole thing, and it all worked out great. That's one end of the spectrum. Another end of the spectrum is, and this has now happened twice, where there was a guy, I got an email one time from a guy in Canada that I didn't even know. And he got this email and he says, "Are you aware of this?" And he had a link. That's all it said. And so I clicked on the link and it took me to a page, and there was the sight unseen case verbatim. It was the case. And he said, and the guy who was doing this, he was selling it as a sight unseen case replica.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And I mean, it was stitch for stitch identical.
Mm.
At the time, there was a period of time of about 13 years, literally, and that's a whole other story that I don't want to get into, where the case was unavailable.
Right.
It couldn't get it. And so that's when some of the opportunists, including this guy, he hopped in and he was selling them for like $180 a piece, which is wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't think he sold too many, but still, that's not the point. And
Right.
so it happens. Unfortunately, there's no actual recourse that I can do. I think all that we can do as a community is to support each other and support
Yeah.
creators. There are some very high profile cases in the past of incredible creators who walked away, never to create, never to release anything again, precisely because of that kind of thing. John Cornelius being one of them. That was a huge loss. John just said, "Screw it, I'm out," because he
Yeah.
got ripped off, and I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
we need to support the guys who are actually doing the work, and the guys who are ripping it off are not doing anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, and I'm not saying that from a selfish perspective, even though I am affected. That's not my point. The point is that it hurts everybody when that kind of thing happens. So I'm glad you brought that up. But there's a whole saga about that, which candidly, I'm sure most people are not all that interested in. If you really are, drop me a note. I'll fill you in. But it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I've heard other people's side of it, and the only person I believe was Peter Lordy.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody else, I was like, no, you're full of shit.
yeah.
I was,
Well, I can
but
tell you what, too,
yeah,
just as a side note,
yeah, yeah,
anymore now when somebody approaches me about, and I still get inquiries to this day about including the SUC feature on some slab of leather. Um, I have since, for the last many years now, I have figured out that now I say, what are you bringing to the table that's new? If it's
right.
just the same stuff, a different combination of some whatever, I'm not interested. What are you
Mm-hmm.
bringing to the table that's new? That's what the community needs, not just another rehashing of something else that's already out there. What are you bringing to the table that's new? And if they legitimately really don't have anything that's new, I'll tell them, and I'll say, look, I'm sorry, but the magic world doesn't need this, and you're not going to sell many if you do. And it's just there's no point. There's really no point. And I've said no
Yeah,
to many people over the years.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've been told no too by many people
Hmm.
in my younger days because I wanted to get my name out there and people were like, no, been done before. You
It's
know,
yeah. It's
you
not
know,
easy.
my, yeah,
It's not
right,
easy.
yeah,
It's not easy. No.
yeah. We got some comments here. Terry Tyson. Hey, Terry.
Jerry, hey bud.
Yeah. Um, Terry calls you a joke. Um, and then he says, granted, he is an old goat like me, but Mark is my favorite publisher and one of my best pals. Um,
I love you,
so
buddy.
it
Thank you.
was very nice. Yeah, Terry's great. He was on the show not too long ago. And Ben Blau says, what I have always loved most about Mark, apart from having fooled me, which he has, Mark does not have that game show host persona that plagues so many mentalism performers. Ironically, without their knowledge, Mark comes across as himself during a performance. I noticed this right away the first time I ever saw him on the old Desert Brainstorm VHS tape, which is something I wanted to bring up as well, because you were in the same room with so many other big names, like Larry Becker and I'm going to forget some,
Yeah,
but
Lee Earl was there. Doc Hilford.
Gal Hilford, Kenton Neffel,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Christopher Caldwell and Gene.
Christopher Caldwell, yeah. Um, and so many brilliant ideas on that video. Um, I don't remember a lot of them because it was a long time ago. But yeah, I mean, I've been in the same room with a couple of you guys, but to be in the same room with all of you would blow my mind.
Well, I can tell you the way that those videos came about, and again, this is probably something that some of your guys have never heard before. Back in the '90s, throughout the entire decade of the '90s, there was a group of mentalists based in Phoenix, Arizona, the greater state,
Mm-hmm.
and we got together about once every 4 to 6 weeks. It was a very loose knit group, and I was fortunate enough to be able to start hopping in with these guys around 1990 or so,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Larry, Lee Earl, Doc was there, Kenton was there. There were a bunch of local guys whose names you probably would not know,
Mm-hmm.
but we got together every 4 to 6 weeks or so at usually at one of the guys' houses who were in Phoenix, and we'd spend the whole afternoon just talking. What's interesting is we almost never brainstormed effects. Almost never. We never talked about methods. We never did any of that. The gentleman who was the driving force behind the whole thing was a guy by the name of Bob Blumley. Bob is no longer with us. He was a lawyer. He actually had one of the more unique columns that ever ran in the Linking Ring, in that he had a periodic column where he would give the stage names or nom de plumes of various performers and hook them up with their real names. So, like, just guys who had, like, Phil Goldstein, Max Maven, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if you go back through those Linking Rings back in the 80s and 90s, you'll come across these things. Where he found all this stuff, I don't know. But anyway, Bob was the driving force behind the whole thing. And he was very upfront. He said the only requirement to be a part of this group is you have to bring something at every meeting. You have to bring something for the good of the order. That was it. It could be a trick. It could be a review, a new book. One of our guys out of Tucson was big on tarot cards. And seemingly every meeting we had, he had a different deck of tarot cards. This guy had 1,000 decks of tarot cards. And we got to see all of them at one point or another. So it was like that. It was a very melange kind of approach to things, but it was great. It was really great. And I dearly miss those days. I learned so much. It was great just being around those guys. And I can tell you for a fact, at every meeting, we had two main objectives that came up practically every time, and they both revolved around Larry Becker. One was seeing if we could make Larry fall out of his chair laughing. That was number one. And number two was trying to find where Larry could hide the crib. We did that all the time. All the time. It was great. Yeah, true story. Hand to God, true story. And that trip where we did those videos, if you guys aren't familiar with those videos, the Desert Rainstorm videos, they were put out in 1997 by what was then A1 Magic Media, Multimedia, became A1 Magical Media, was acquired by L&L, which now has been acquired by Murphy's. And so that's that whole evolution there. It was a three video set, all seven of us performing on all three videos. Yeah, performing one piece and explaining it. That trip, I won't go into it now, but the next time, if any of us on this call right now, if you ever find yourself in a room with me in person at a convention or someplace, and we've got, say, 20 minutes, ask me about those videos, and I will tell you the whole sordid tale. And believe me, it is sordid, of that trip and everything that happened on that trip. It wasn't in Vegas, so it doesn't have to stay in Vegas. I'll tell you all about it. And it was. So
maybe we can do an after hours episode of Beyond Belief. We are at the hour, but it was something you mentioned before we went on air, which I either have forgotten about or didn't know even when it was valid. At this point in my life, I either forgot it or I never knew. That one of the early videos that you did was about performing for kids. And I was wondering if, before we end this session, if you can talk about that real quick.
Like we talked about, all of my early videos, I haven't done a video project in, well over 20 years, 25 years. But my early video projects were all through the auspices of the late, great Brian Flora out of Albuquerque. And bless his heart, we miss you, Brian. The guy was great. I owe so much to him. I really do. And he put out a yearly, he did a very unique model in that he offered a yearly video subscription, and you would just send X number of dollars in at the beginning of the year, and every video that he brought out that year, you got it. However many it was. If it was 5, if it was 20, that's what you got. And it was always a great deal. And it was also a great mishmash of stuff because he had different authors. He had me, he had Doc Hilford, he had Ron Martin. Some of you may remember Ron, various people. And it was always, there was magic, mentalism. Richard Webster was one of his authors as well. And so all kinds of stuff. And I had done 3 or 4 videos for him dealing exclusively with mentalism. And then I mentioned to him one day, I said, you know, Brian, I do a lot of work in daycares. I perform a lot in daycares. I do shows for 4-year-olds. I do shows for people that are this tall all the time. I mean, hundreds of them a year. And I do it for a lot of reasons. Number one, kids are great. Number 2, and this is not bragging, I am killer for kids. Kids think I'm the best thing walking the face of the planet. And because they love me, I love them. We have a great time. We laugh like crazy. It's wonderful. They're easy when you know how to work for kids. They're the easiest audience in the world. I know those of you who work for adults are currently going, no, yes. You just have to know how to do it. And if you don't, that's okay. I get it. But I mentioned to Brian, I said, we should do a video where I do a daycare show for a bunch of 4-year-olds, and we talk about it afterwards. He thought that was a great idea. And so we put out a video. I say he put out a video called Mark Strivings Goes to Daycare. And I don't know if you can still find it anywhere. The videos are no longer being made. You could probably find it on the secondary market somewhere. But it was literally me doing a show for a bunch of 4-year-olds, about 30 of these kids in a room. And then afterwards, we did a part talking head, part demonstration on some things. And it was, I got more shocked comments from that video than anything else I've ever done. And because guys, like we were talking about before we went on here, Tommy, people tend to pigeonhole you into what you do and who you are, which is why the musician thing comes up. People see me out in the wild and they're not real sure it's me. Yeah, it's me. It's just I'm holding a saxophone and not a deck of cards or whatever. And same thing here. You tend to get people think of me as a mentalist, which is great because I am one. But working for kids was just completely outside of their ability to comprehend. And so as a result, it was a very interesting video to be received. I thought the video was great fun. We had a blast making it. There was some very good information on there. I will put my experience in the world of doing magic shows in daycares up against anybody in the world. Literally, and I mean that literally. I will put it up against anybody. I know what I'm doing, and I'm very good at it. That's not bragging. That's just a fact. It's not bragging if it's the truth. And I'm good with kids. I am. I love performing for kids, and it's a great little market. It's something I do all the time. We were doing this on a Saturday. I did a bunch of shows this past week. So it's something I do a lot. It's easy. It's local. It happens during the week, during the mornings, usually. Yeah. I'm not performing for anybody else at that time. So, so it works out great. It's fun. And 2, there's a lot you can learn. Performing is performing. And there's a lot you can learn from any kind of performing. And so I think it's all valuable. And so that's where that is. And I hope I have not alienated everybody now. So.
No, I just think it's important for people to know that just because somebody is known for one thing doesn't mean that they're not good at doing other things like playing the saxophone or performing for kids. I love kids too, but I don't like performing for them.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Not for everybody.
It takes a special person to work with kids. And I love when I was younger, I did a lot of kids shows like back in the 70s
Okay.
and 80s. But nowadays, and this could be a whole show. Nowadays, I feel like I'm a glorified babysitter, and
Oh, okay.
I don't
Sure.
want to be a babysitter.
Okay.
You know,
Can I give my 2 minute
absolutely, yeah,
kid
please,
show seminar? Here's
yeah,
my 2 minute kid show seminar. You got to understand kids. Kids are only interested in one thing. Now, when you get right down to it, it's the same thing we're all interested in. But kids, it is their sole focus in their entire existence. They just want to have fun. That's all they want to do.
mm-hmm,
They
mm-hmm,
just want to have fun. And if you can go in and if you can be fun and if you can help them have fun, and if they can figure out that, oh, when this guy comes to this place and I'm there, we're going to have fun.
mm-hmm,
It doesn't matter what you do. It makes no difference what you do because they have decided that you are fun. They have decided that you are funny, whatever. And it's already done. You can do literally anything you want and it will be a success. And that is my 90-second, 2 minute kid show
I
market.
love it. I
There,
love it. I mean,
there.
my issue really isn't with the kids; it's with the parents of
Uh-huh.
the kids.
Yeah,
You know,
that's another
yeah,
issue.
yeah,
That's another,
exactly,
yeah.
yeah,
But it's also true. But it's also true there. It's like we were talking about with George Sands earlier. It's
yeah, yeah,
we all want to be fun. We want to have fun. We want to be entertained. So
yeah,
if you're working with kids, if you can also, and this is where things get to be interesting, if you can also be entertaining for the adults, those other issues drop dramatically.
right.
And so, and again, okay, here's Mark's 60-second seminar on how to do that. Put things into your kid show that are specifically for the adults
Right.
so that the kids know. Now, this is a stock line. I don't know who did it first. I didn't create it, but here it is. My name is Mark. I'm a magician, and I'm going to magish for you for a little bit. Good thing I'm not a wizard, huh? Okay? The kids never get that joke, and they shouldn't. But the
Right.
grown-ups go, okay.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
immediately figure out, oh, that was for me.
Right.
Yes, that was for you.
Yeah.
And if you can, everyone, and I do this, I will look right at parents, I will look right at the adults, and I will say things to them, and they know I'm talking to you. This is for you. I know
Yeah.
you're here, and
Yeah.
it's not just for the kids. I want you
Yeah.
to have fun too. And
Yeah.
you can do that and make it organic into what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, oh,
And no, I agree with all of that.
yep.
But and maybe it's just here in New York, but a lot of parents were like, okay, we'll see you in
That
half an hour. We're gonna go have a couple of drinks. I'm like,
happens too. Yeah,
no, yeah, yeah. I'm
yeah,
like, no, you can be in here and we'll all have fun. But yeah, anyway,
yeah.
uh, before we go, Terry says if you were at East Coast Spirit Sessions, I'll buy the first round supply you. I don't have my reading glasses on. Supply you to reveal those stories. Um, um, and Ben says, Eugene Berger said, I suppose kids are fine, especially with the right wine sauce.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Eugene was right about everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Mark, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. I hope you can come back, not in 5 years, but soon.
Absolutely.
Because I know there's so much more that we can talk about. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm going to put you in the backstage for a minute before, so you and I can say bye bye after the show. But
If anybody wants to get in touch with me, easiest
yeah,
way is use my email address. And if you want to write this down, feel free. It's easy to remember. and there's a story behind it, which I will not tell you. My email address is Marky, M-A-R-K-Y, April, like the months, Marky April at AOL.com. Yes, I have an AOL address. So there you go. Drop me a note, and if I can help you out with anything, please don't hesitate.
Thank you, Mark. I will put that on the bottom of the screen when it goes out for to go up on YouTube. But yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you in.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for coming, everybody. Appreciate it.
I'll see you in a minute.
Yep.
Okay. And yeah, so well, I want to thank everybody here and everybody online, Ben Blau, Terry Tyson, Daniel Orr, somebody else was on here also watching. It's always a pleasure to know people are watching, and it's also a pleasure when my guest says, "Yeah, I'll do it." So it's always a plus. Gotta have fun, right? Gotta have fun. Yeah. Next week is another great performer. Some of you have seen him on this show, I believe, before I took it over. His name is Edward Underwood, and we're going to be talking about mostly about bizarre magic and how to make it effective. So that'll be next week. And until then, remember to keep it strange. See you next time.
You've been watching Beyond Belief with your host, Tommy Burnett. Thank you to Mark Strivings. See you next time, when our guest will be Edward Underwood, Saturday, August 22nd at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Well, that was fun.